Hello learners, welcome back. So we are on our journey to learn Vagrant so that we can create a better development environment for ourselves, and this is Self-Tuts helping you in that. So till now we have seen how to download a Vagrant box and from where we can download it and what are the different names of boxes. So we have searched for the boxes like Ubuntu boxes, CentOS boxes, HashiCorp, and this is the repository, online repository from where we can download box. We can add a new box using the Vagrant command line tool. We can list all our boxes and we can remove a box. So we have also done a small hands-on experience with a tiny size box which is called Tiny Core Micro, and we have run all these commands over it and we have seen it. So now we'll see what a Vagrant file is and how to do our configuration for the Vagrant. So if I'll show you, I'll open my console from where I'm using Baboon for that. We'll have a course on this also. So I'm on my Windows machine, but I've installed Baboon, so it gives me a Linux type environment or a feel that I'm running something on Linux. So I'll go to my D drive, and inside D drive I'll go to my workspace folder, and if I'll show you what are the boxes that has been already downloaded by me, I can use Vagrant command line tool and I'll say Vagrant box list. So it will list all the boxes. So at present time we can see that my host machine, Windows machine, I have downloaded 3 boxes. Those are OLE, CentOS and Ubuntu. All these are the different flavor of Linux. So what a Vagrant file is? Vagrant file is a file needed by Vagrant to set up our virtual machine. Means Vagrant uses this file to set up your virtual machine. It reads all the configuration, all the configuration related to virtual machine is written here. So when Vagrant starts, it reads this file. It reads this Vagrant file, which is basically a configuration file to configure your virtual machine. And full configuration of your virtual machine can be done in a single file. So a virtual machine has different configuration, like the network configuration, like the how much memory you will need for your virtual machine, and which will be the synced folder between your virtual machine. We'll see the syncing of folder between Vagrant virtual machine and the host machine. So all those configuration can be written inside a single file, and that file is called Vagrant file. So if I'll show you how the configuration for a Vagrant machine is written or a Vagrant virtual machine is written, so it starts with a line and says Vagrant configure, which means I'm trying to configure my virtual machine, and this is basically 2 here. Vagrant configuration has 2 versions. One is 1 and another is 2. In our case, we are using the version 2 for the configuration. So Vagrant will read this file and it will intercept that now the configuration for the virtual machine will start. So this is the default format to write. I'll explain this later, but the first thing that we write in our Vagrant file, that which box we are going to use. So in this case we are going to use CentOS 7 box, which we have already downloaded and which I have shown to you by running the command Vagrant box list. So we'll start writing our first Vagrant file and we'll see how to do the configuration for our system or for our virtual machine. So we'll create a folder with the name CentOS 7 and we'll go inside CentOS 7 and we'll create a Vagrant file. So this is our Vagrant file and we'll start doing our configuration for that Vagrant file here. So the first line which will be there is called Vagrant, and then we'll use configure. So it says that the configuration for the Vagrant will start from here, and the version for the configuration will be the version 2nd, and it will say do config, and the configuration will end here. So this is all that Vagrant file needs to have to start the configuration. So my when I'll use my Vagrant command line tool, it will read this file, and when it will intercept this line, it will start doing the configuration for your virtual machine. So the first thing that I want to add here is my box, which box this virtual machine will be having. So I'll say config vm.box and the name of the box. So in this case, my name will be CentOS 7. So this is all about the first configuration, the initial most configuration, that is called CentOS 7. By default, all these configuration keys or values have been defined inside Vagrant. If you don't provide something, like currently we are not providing how much CPU is there, how much memory is there, so it will take all those things by default. We are not providing any SSH configuration, so the default SSH configuration will be picked up by my Vagrant. So we have seen that the box CentOS is present here locally, and we'll now try to start our virtual machine. So the command to use a virtual machine using our Vagrant command line tool is called Vagrant up. So when we do Vagrant up, it tries to read a file that is called Vagrantfile inside the current folder. Since the current folder contains a Vagrantfile and it contains the configuration, so it'll try to read that file. So during this configuration, VirtualBox in our Vagrant output, there will be so many output, and I'll explain that outputs to you one by one. So first thing it says, bringing machine default up with VirtualBox provider. So this is the name of the machine that is currently being started. So if you don't provide a name to the virtual machine in my configuration file, then Vagrant will give a default name to it, and that default name will be called default. So when we use Vagrant to create our virtual machine, from a single box we can create multiple virtual machine. So if we want to create multiple virtual machine, then we need to give different name to those virtual machine, and if name is not given to that virtual machine, so the first time it will give a default name, but if second time we don't give a name to my virtual machine, then what will happen? It will give a conflict that the default machine is already up and you can't have a machine with the same name. So names are important to my virtual machine, but we are only using a single virtual machine for now, so the default name is okay. The second thing is that bringing machine default up with VirtualBox provider. So to make Vagrant virtual machines run, there should be some provider, and we have seen that there are basically two providers. One is the VirtualBox provider and one is the VMware provider. By default, this Vagrant uses VirtualBox provider. Now it says importing base box CentOS 7. Since we have given a name inside our Vagrant file that which box to use, so in our case, the box that we are going to use is CentOS 7. So again it says checking if box CentOS 7 is up to date. Since we have installed, or if we have downloaded the box nearly 1 week ago, so it is, my Vagrant is trying to check that is any new update for CentOS 7 is present on the remote repository. So it says that a new version is available for CentOS 7, which the version is 1704, but the box that we are having is 1611. So we don't need to bother about it, how to update a box. We'll see it later. And it has also given us the command that Vagrant box update, and the name of the box we need to give to update it. Now it is saying that there are some clearing port. So it is forwarding port. Since I have a virtual machine already downloaded and I'm using it, so by default there is a SSH port to do SSH. Means if I want to go from one system to another, then I can use a SSH tool to go inside my Linux machine. By default this value should be 2222, but since I am already having a virtual machine up at 2222, so it is giving me that there is a collision there, so it is replacing it with 2200. So there is a thing called adapter 1 NAT. It is used for networking for my virtual machine, but we are not seeing it now. We'll see it later when we'll deal with the networking of Vagrant machines, it is forwarding port. So here there are two ports written, 22 and 2200, and there is a name called guest. So anywhere in your Vagrant file or Vagrant machine, if you see guest, it means that particular machine, and if there is a host, then it says the host machine. That is, at current I am using a Windows machine, so it is saying host and guest. So host is always your default machine or the main machine, and guest is the Vagrant machine. So it is saying that I am forwarding a port of 22 to 2200. It means if I'm trying to access a port of 2200 on my host machine, currently on Windows machine, then it will forward that request to the guest machine, to my Vagrant machine at port 22. Okay, so I think this is clear. And the next thing is my Vagrant machine will be up, but I'll try to go inside that, means I'll try to use that machine. So I'll need a SSH tool, and by default the SSH tool is will use the local IP, and the local IP for every machine will be 127.0.0.1. and since there was a port collision, because of that my port got changed, but by default it will be 2222, and the username for my SSH will be Vagrant, and the auth method is a private key. If you are trying to connect this virtual machine from some other machine, from my host machine there will be no problem, but if I try to connect my machine from some other machine, then it will give me an error because I have to use a private key to connect to my machine. We'll see it later. Now it will say that machine is booted and ready, but there are some required file that will be used by CentOS. So it is trying to download it from the server, and you can see this is finding all the dependency for those files. It is the same thing as we do a yum install in our Linux machine. So the first time it is trying to download these files. So it is installing say here GCC, which is the compiler for our C, then some software, so file related to kernel level, some Perl file, and it is also downloading the dependency which is being needed by these files. So this is not important for now, but I'm trying to explain it just for your helpfulness. So it is saying that total download size is 53 MB and installation size 150. When it has successfully downloaded all those above softwares, it is trying to install it, and it has been downloaded successfully and installed, and it says the machine is up now, and there is a resyncing folder that we'll see when I'll explain you how to use a sync folder in Vagrant. So now our machine is up, so I'll do a clear. So now our machine is up, that CentOS machine that we have created. So now you will be thinking that how to go inside that machine. So Vagrant command line tool again provides a method that is called SSH method to go inside your machine. So you need to go inside the folder where your Vagrant machine is up, and you need to fire the command Vagrant SSH. So it will automatically load that private key which we have seen earlier, and it will go inside that machine. So now you can see that we are inside a Vagrant machine, and we can fire all these commands like ls, or if I'll show you the uname, it says Linux. So we have successfully done it, and we have made the system up, that is CentOS 7. And how easy it is to use a Vagrant to make your system up. So we can see the different files. So if we want to create a directory, mkdir suppose test, so you'll see test folder ls -la, so it will show me, see all these things are related to Linux. So we bash rc file, bash profile file, .ssh, all these files are related to our Linux machine. So we have successfully downloaded it, we have successfully installed it, we have made the system up, and we have entered into our Vagrant system. If you want to go outside of the system, just type the command exit. So my now system is up. If I want to halt my system, in Vagrant world we say halt, means if you want to shut down your system, we'll use the command Vagrant halt. So what it will do, it will try to shut down my Vagrant machine. So it is saying attempting graceful shutdown of VM. So it will try to do it in such a way that your files are not lost, nothing bad happens to your virtual machine. So it has successfully shut down the my Vagrant CentOS machine. Again, if I'll try to go inside that, so it will say that there is no open connection, VM must be running. So this is all about this video, in which we learned about how to use a box to create our virtual machine. We'll see more configurations later on. This is all about this video. So if you like my channel, please subscribe to it. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up to it. Happy coding.